Hi folks, and welcome back to Broadside Game with me, Zug. So carrying on with this week's theme, which is what the hell is Zug using? And today we're taking a look at the Ogryn. Let's jump in and see what we're using. So first up, we're using the Delver's PickAxe, more specifically the Carsolus Mark II. Now for the modifiers, we're using damage, cleave damage, crowd control, and penetration, lol. And for the perks, we're using unyielding and flak armor, because we want to smash those bosses, and also flak armor is the most prevalent armor type in the game. As for the blessings, we're using Slaughterer, which gives us plus 8% strength for 4.5 seconds on kill, stacks 5 times, and Thrust. Up to 20% strength based on the charge time of your heavy attack, stacks 3 times. Now, Thrust is very good. On the Carsolus in particular, as you can see here, we're going to activate the overhead, which is by using the weapon special, which is to stagger them forward. And as you can see, Thrust stacks up ridiculously quickly with the Carsolus. So it may be the lightest pick, but it has access to the most damage by being quick. If that makes sense. So the Granks and the whatever the other one is, I've forgotten already. The Borvorian or the Bovine, whatever the hell it is. Now the Branks is the hardest hitting version. As you can see here, heavy attack is insane, but it's slightly clumsy. Your horde clear is just a bit compared to the Carsolus. It's a very good pickaxe. It does just feel slightly clumsy, and the one thing that stops it from being my top tier weapon is the special attack. I very much prefer the pull forward rather than the jab. They're both good. It's just a small finicky point for me, because it makes it slightly more difficult to deal with bulwarks, because you can't basically pull their shield open. But this build works with any of the pickaxes, so basically pick your poison and just follow along. Like I said, the Carsolus is just my favourite, but this does work with every single one of them. It's just my preference, really. So, that's how we're building for the blessings. And I will point out one more thing, sorry. With the pickaxe, you can change this up quite a bit. So, at the moment, we're using a Thrust and a Slaughterer, but you can go for maybe Head Taker and Slaughterer if you don't want the heavy attack damage, which I don't know why you would want it, but if you don't. Or you can take Wrath and Slaughterer. They're all quite good picks. Or you could take Thrust and, of course, Confident Strike for chaining back toughness. I just prefer Thrust and Slaughterer. It really does help to just cleave through hordes and heavy armored opponents. As you can see, it does help to pull that shield open. Anyway, let's move on. So for your ranged weapon, I generally pick the Rumbler, because I really like the Rumbler, especially now that they've made Adhesive Charge better, which is your grenades stick to Ogryns and Monstrosities and do 15% damage versus Ogryns and Monstrosities. It just makes it very good for dealing with bosses. So if you need to, you can just use your Rumbler to deal with Monstrosities by just laying down huge amounts of unpleasant fire and sticking those grenades to it. But again, this is very customizable to whatever your preference really is. So if you don't like the Rumbler, you can always use the Kickback in this sort of setup, or you can use the Grenade Gauntlet, usually like this. Grenade Gauntlet is very good. It's basically a Rumbler mixed with the big friendly rock. I just prefer the Rumbler. So with that, we're taking flak armored enemies with unyielding, and Adhesive Charge and Blaze Away. 8% strength for every shot fired during continuous fire, stacks 5 times. This just allows us to do quite a bit more damage with it. Now, for the Curios, we're going to take 2 Toughness Curios and 1 Max Health. And the Toughness Curios are going to be spec'd out like this, with extra toughness, damage resistant snipers, and damage resistant gunners. And then the Max Health Curio is going to have Max Health, Max Toughness, and damage resistant gunners. Now, the only reason I'm taking Sniper Resist on the Ogryn is because you are more susceptible to being targeted and killed by snipers, especially when you're in the middle of a horde and you have a sniper gauntlet. And that is generally down to the speed of the Ogryn and your size. It just makes it a lot easier for them to hit you. So even if you're an absolute madman and able to dodge through loads of snipers, every now and again you will get clipped. And this is just going to help with sort of smoothing out that damage. Because getting hit by one doesn't matter. It's usually when there's a lot of them, that's when the trouble starts. But there you go. 2 toughness and 1 max health. Right, let's jump into the talents. So, first of all, we're going to start off with Furious. For each enemy you hit during the same heavy melee attack, you gain 2.5% damage on your next melee attack. Then we're picking up the Best Defense to replenish 20% toughness after hitting multiple enemies with a single heavy melee attack. Into the Toughness, into Smash 'em, replenish 20% toughness after hitting a single enemy with a heavy melee attack. Into Heavyweight, the best talent in the Ogryn tree. Plus 30% damage against Bulwarks, Crushers, Plague Ogrins, and Reapers. Also receive plus 30% damage reduction against the same. And then we're going to be picking up Linchpin. Toughness replenishment while incoherency is increased by 50%. Then we're going to be grabbing Bombs Away. Yes, it is the weakest out of all 3 blitzes, but the reason we're taking this is because we want Slam and we want Soften them up. Now, if you really want to, you can just dump out Slam, put the point in Toughness here, and pick up the Frag Bomb. The Frag Bomb is very, very, very good. But I do like having both of these talents. So, it's throwing a box of grenades with great strength and enthusiasm to deal high damage to a single enemy. Hitting an enemy causes the box to break open and releasing 6 grenades around the target. Basically, it works exactly like the Big Friendly Rock. You aim, you throw, it explodes. Now, it does do a lot of damage if you manage to headshot things with it, but you do only have 2 grenades, which is slightly annoying. Which makes it a bit weak, to be honest. But it does open us up to being able to pick up Slam, which gives us plus 25% impact bonus on melee attacks, which just basically allows us to stagger things more. And of course, Soften them up. Enemies damaged by you take 15% more damage for 5 seconds. Anything you hit, shoot, or touch is going to take more damage. Then into Toughness damage reduction. And into Indomitable. Charge forward with great force, knocking back enemies and staggering them. Gain plus 25% attack speed and 25% movement speed for 5 seconds. Charge is stopped on collision with monstrosities, which isn't entirely the case. You can stop it yourself by just pressing S or your back key or movement thing. So you charge, you hit S to stop yourself, and you can deal with whatever target you've run into. That is this if you actually want to stop. Otherwise, just let it run through. Now, with this, there are there's 2 options. We go with Stomping Boots to replenish 10% toughness per enemy hit with Indomitable. And then the options are Pulverize, apply 5 stacks of bleed on enemies hit by Indomitable, or Trample. For each enemy hit by Bull Rush, you gain a stack of Trample. Trample increases base damage by 2% for 8 seconds to a max stack of 25, which is giving us 50% increased damage if we hit a large horde. So basically your choices are defense and a small amount of damage, or no defense and a lot of damage. It really is just a toss-up of which you prefer. The bleed stacks are very powerful, so if you wanted to stick with defense and bleed, it's a very good option. Or if you want to just go through with massive overkill damage, go with Trample. I tend to jump between the 2 depending on how I feel. Next, we're taking Rending Boost for 5% Rending, which basically works out to 5% damage. The Health Boost for 5% health, and then we're taking Hard Knocks. Plus 1% damage to your next heavy melee attack on enemy stagger. Stacks 25 times and lasts 10 seconds. The larger the enemy, the more stacks are earned. So basically, this in conjunction with impact is going to help us stagger things. As we stagger, we're going to get bonuses to our damage. As you can see there, pulling him forward gave me 5 stacks. So the more we stagger, the more damage we do. It's just a really nice little buff that we don't have to think about very much. Right, back into the left tree. We're going to take Batter, inflict 4 stacks of bleed on heavy melee hit, into the heavy melee damage boost, into Bonebreaker's aura, plus 10% heavy melee attack damage for you and your allies in incoherency, into the melee damage boost here, and then to the middle for the toughness boost. Then we're picking up Attention Seeker, blocking or pushing enemies, taunts them for 8 seconds, and then we're taking Payback Time, plus 20% damage for 5 seconds after being hit by a melee attack. You will take chip damage, there's no real way to avoid it, but this is going to give you 20% damage every time something touches you, and it's very powerful. Attention Seeker is mostly just going to be there to help your team if you're trying to drag attention off of something that's, kicking the hell out of your Psyker. It's not great with the pick, but it is useful. But Payback Time is incredibly powerful. Now, if you don't like these 2 talents, you can just switch them over to Get Stuck In and Bruiser. Then we're going to jump over back here to the left again, and then we're going to take Delight in Destruction. Plus 8% damage resistance per bleeding enemy in melee range, stacks 6 times. Now we're going to be getting that from Batter and from Pulverize. This is just quite a large defensive boost for us, as basically everything we do now is going to inflict a bleed, apart from light attacks. Dominate, plus 10% rending for 10 seconds on elite kill, into Toughness Damage Reduction. Get plus 10% Toughness Damage Reduction. Implacable, 15% damage reduction while charging a melee attack, especially good if you're using Thrust. Heavy melee damage boost for 5% heavy melee damage. And of course, Heavy Hitter, plus 5% damage for 7.5% seconds on heavy attack hit, stacks 5 times. Just getting started, while heavy attack is at 5 stacks, we gain 10% attack speed. So basically, heavy attack pretty much all the time. And you can throw in a few light attacks if you want to. But heavy attacking is where you're going to get the most benefit from your talents from. I know a lot of people say to me, why aren't you taking the light attack one? The light attack talent, which is brutish momentum, because it's not massively necessary, to be honest. Yes, it's handy for light attacks to refresh our heavy hitter, but we would have to lose a few bits and pieces here and there to have it. And honestly, there isn't really much we can lose at the moment. I mean, we could lose one of these, Hard Knocks, or Payback Time, to just be able to refresh heavy hitter with light attacks. It's not worth it. Most of the time you will just be throwing in loads and loads of heavy attacks, but of course, light attacks are useful. They don't feel like you can't use them. They're just not going to get you much, really. And don't forget to use your absolutely overpowered overhead hits. And you can access these, again, by using your weapon special, which is pulling them forward, and then a lovely overhead strike. Or a push attack, which is block, push, hit, then overhead. Block, push, hit, and I did it wrong. Block, push, hit, and... God damn, this thing's making me look an absolute idiot. Oh, you get the point. God damn it. So, it's right click to block, and then you go over to the left click. And that's what I was doing wrong. I was holding down both mouse buttons. Block, push, hit, overhead. There we go. Stupid bloody thing. Anyway. And that's how you access the overheads with the Carsolus. I really enjoy this build. I mean, since the picks have come out, I know a lot of people don't like them, but I love the picks. They're fun. And I can pretend I'm playing Bardin and Vermintide 2 again. And who doesn't want to be Bardin? I know I do. God damn, I miss you, Bardin. Anyway, that is my general pickaxe build for the Ogryn. I hope you enjoyed. And if you have, please do like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And I shall see you all for the next one. So until then, take it easy, and I'll see you later.